Hi everybody, this is Professor Kaushik Sengupta. We are talking about the Management 203 class that you're obviously taking here, which is Operations and Supply Chain Management. And I just wanted to give you a little video overview, if you will, in terms of what to expect in the course and so on. You should have already read the documents that I have sent you, which has a lot of details, as you saw, in terms of the course structure, the syllabus, things like how you're supposed to do postings on the forums and so on, right? So here what I want to do is give you a little bit of overview regarding the course itself in terms of its content, and hopefully that'll give you a good kind of an overview summary, if you will, at the beginning of the semester to kind of gauge as to what we're looking at here in terms of the course and the content and the concepts, etc., that we'll end up discussing. All right. Before I get there, I just wanted to let you know that I've been teaching this course, I would say, for quite a while now, and this is also a kind of a novel way of doing it, which is obviously doing it online. So essentially, we get to a point where a lot of the discussions can be done online because we have the technology available to do it, and so we will try to obviously use the technology as best as we can, understanding always the fact that the frontier in terms of the technology is an ever-expanding one. So obviously things change over time, but I think what we try to do is be as state-of-the-art as possible in terms of what we're using for a course like this. So having said that, obviously this is operations and supply chain, and in a way I would say this is how I kind of start the discussion normally in a course like this, which is essentially to say to all of you that if you look at this particular function, the operations function, it is true that this function exists in almost any company that is out there, because any company has to do whatever its line of business is, it has to do a day-to-day operation. So if you talk about the day-to-day operation, then you have to talk about operations, obviously. So that's really where we're coming from. The other the aspect of this is, if you look at a company's investment in terms of its you call it the infrastructure, the facilities, the people, the equipment, and so on. This is really the function which deals with all these resources. So in a way, what you do in this function or as part of this function becomes kind of a be-all and end-all as to how well or not you do in terms of your overall business. Because if you don't manage your resources properly, then obviously no matter what you have in terms of your product or service, you might have the greatest marketing message out there or the greatest finance tool out there, but if you don't do well on your day-to-day operational side, then nothing else is going to matter. So obviously I'm a little biased here, as you can see, because I teach and research in this area, and but if you look at it from a general standpoint, I think there's a truth in that statement that this is really where your maximum investment lies. And so you better know how best to manage it, and otherwise you'll not be a good manager to start with. So that's really where we're coming from in terms of this course. Now if you've looked through the syllabus, you would have seen that there are a lot of different types of concepts we will end up covering in this course. So we'll be starting off our discussions with the discussions on quality management. Then we'll go into project management. We will deal with a lot of processes. We'll deal with a lot of design aspects for a company's operations function, and then we'll get into some discussions on supply chains and demand and inventory planning and so on. So if you look at all of these topics, actually all of them, and actually each one of them, you look at each one of these topics, you could run a semester-long course on each of these topics. So obviously we're not doing that here. We are doing only a short time on each of these topics, which essentially means we will end up doing a quick overview about basically the high-level issues and the important issues in each of these areas. Then we'll try to wrap that around a few discussion points that we will do, actually you will do with me in on the discussion boards. We will use some cases to illustrate the application of the concepts that we're talking about to those business scenarios. And this is very similar to to a scenario where if you do, let's say, a law program or any other application oriented program as such. The concepts are good, but the concepts are good only in themselves, and they're as good as where they're applied. So essentially, as long as you're not applying them anywhere, it's not as good. So you really need to see how it is applied in a real life setting. So that's why you're using the business cases rather to kind of illustrate that application part of it. Having said that, we will obviously try to kind of give you a broad overview of the cases in terms of when we actually discuss it, and I'll try to kind of lead you through the case discussions regarding the important issues that needs to be brought up during those discussions, that is. Alright, so from a conceptual standpoint, if you look at the overall function for operations, you would see that it actually goes back many years and a few decades. Actually a lot of the or many of the techniques that we'll end up discussing here, let's say on quality, on project management, on inventory management, and so on, are quite old in terms of when they first got invented. So if you look at something like the project techniques that we'll talk about, these were mostly invented during the era of the Second World War. So it's almost, you look at it from that standpoint that these are decades old basically. The inventory techniques, some of them are even older. So if you look at some of those aspects, the reason why we still keep talking about these is because it is still relevant. They are still relevant in terms of how businesses use it today, and they're of course being used by a lot of companies across a number of different industries. So that's where we're coming from in terms of the concept. Now, some of the newer enablers, if you will, have happened over the recent years because of the technology that's available today that was, let's say, not there, some time back. So essentially, we talk about the internet, the birth of the internet in the mid '90s, and the boom that happened right after that. A lot of the supply chain aspects and the collaboration scenarios really happen today because of the technology that's there today. So, and now we're talking about things like newer technologies. So we talk about cloud computing, for example. That takes the supply chain aspects to an entirely different level. So what we'll try to do is, what I'm trying to get at here, as you can kind of imagine, is give you a flair of the old and the new. And the old are basically some of the very traditional type of techniques that have always existed in the operations function, and they are old from the time of, as we were saying, when they were invented and used and so on, but they're still used today, so they're relevant although they're old. And then of course we're going to talk about the new techniques. All right, so what I want you to do is please follow the syllabus very carefully, please follow the deadlines very carefully, and of course you get a good document there, or the core structure document outlines what you should be looking for in a particular module. So that should give you a good idea about essentially what we are discussing throughout a particular module or a particular part of the course, that is. And just to let you know, as we know, emails are there like a 24/7 thing now. So please email me if you have any questions. I normally am very responsive, very quick to respond to emails. So unless I'm traveling or something, but otherwise you'll most of the times get a response very quickly from me if you do send me an email about anything. Alright, so I look forward to teaching this course. It's fun teaching it. In a accompanying video, I'll talk a little bit about my background. And again, as you can see, most of these videos are posted from YouTube, so I have to kind of restrict myself as to how long I can talk in a particular video. So some of these things are actually broken up, but that's okay, which is actually good because you don't have to listen to one long rambling lecture or something from me, although some of the audio lectures are quite long, but you can always stop in the middle and go back and restart the lecture or start from where you paused before and so on. So those capabilities are there. So please use the technology because they are available, and hopefully this will be an interesting course for all of you.